Namaskaram to all. So I'm very happy to interact with you on an online media, and I appreciate the institution authorities to have a FTP plan like this purely online. The first and foremost advice to you all is stay safe at home and fight COVID. So when the coordinator of this particular program called me and we had a chat on what exactly should be the subject to deliver. So she said that no, I need to stick something to sampling, and very specifically that she told researchers are having huge sort of issues, especially regarding the estimation of sample size. There are many stories or no many hues and apprehensions regarding how exactly that you need to actually plan your sample size for your research. What I thought was the time that I'm going to spend today should be fruitful to you. So I have planned this as an exercise option where I'll be just exposing you to some practicals where it is, I will try to put it in very simple terms so that each and every one of you will be able to follow it. If you are research scholars or if you're research supervisors, you can actually guide your candidates or your research scholars also regarding the same. So what I am trying to integrate today is a little bit on Excel, a little bit on SPSS, and how we can incorporate all these things for finding out the exact sample size and what are the very interesting or no very I don't know whether to call it as a shortcut or not, but the easy way to go about it so that it will be crystal clear and it will be so transparent so that no people can or researchers can actually play a game on that. So this is what is my like objectives like. So I'm just not taking you all across I'm just now sharing my slides with you. So the topic of my discussion today is actually on sample size estimation. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Dr. Harish Ramanathan. I'm from Jain University Kochi campus. So the topic what I'm just going to expose to you is on sample size estimation. The time allotted probably will be less than an hour. It may be even difficult for the students to actually keep on attending a session more than 1 hour, especially an online session. So I'll try to put it very precise to you, not by just elaborating things. So directly coming on to the topic, I would like to tell all of you to have a retrospection because many people will be there who might have already completed your PhD or some sort of research that you might have entered into. So this is a question where you all maybe put into difficult times. So there are different ways that we may be trying to answer on this. So something maybe you will try to take a convenient sample size and we will try to build on theory or build on technical explanation based on that. So there is no need to actually escape out from the process of sample estimation, that you will be able to beautifully do it in by very easy steps at the time of your pilot study itself. So this is what I am just planning to expose to you. So if you try to think back, you may have all sort of health sort of issues with how you have exactly planned on this and what all difficulties that you had in fixing out this. So what I would like to suggest you normally when thinking on how to estimate a sample size, there are only two possibilities. Either your population will be finite or your population will be infinite. So, yeah, finite population, you generally will not be having that much of issue, will not be having that much of issues with, since there are many methods available, even on a finger click. Many online facilities are there where you will be able to estimate on the sample size by using your confidence interval or error rates, things like that, that I'll be coming as a second part of it. But mostly, all of you will be stuck when you are having an infinite population where the numbers are actually not very defined. In some other cases also, your finite population also will be so huge where you may have the same type of issues also with. So how to tackle this, is actually a very difficult question. But what I would like to request you is that, or to suggest you is that, the method what I am trying to expose to you can be applied if your sample size is both infinite or even it is finite. Why also I'll tell you. The method what we are planning to implement or what I'm trying to expose right now is a data centric method where the discrepancy of the data or the deviation of the data is actually being the most deciding factor of your sample size. So principles of sampling that we all might have learned, and of that, no, you might have learned and like a jargon or no something like that. The more heterogeneities are there in the sample size, you can have more deviation, and larger the sample size, more accurate your results will be. So this is the basic concept where by which the entire sampling procedure is actually relied on. And so the first step that what I'm trying to fix for today is, if you have an infinite sample, so how exactly that we have to go about it. Okay, so this is what I'm planning to go for. So this is the question for the first part of my session: how to estimate sample size when the population is infinite. The method what I am trying to tell you can equally be applied to finite samples also. There is no problem, because I feel that no, the method what we are, I am just going to explain to you is the apt one, even though you have a finite structure also. So what the basic essence of this is actually derived from the z-test formula. When you see the formula, don't run away from the session, because I'm not going to tell anything about statistics or no, anything about formula or anything about derivation. Just to give you where from that we are going is what I'm trying to explain to you. And I'm not just going to derive all these things, but rather we'll be using MS Excel, which is an very friendly format for each and every one of you, that I'm just exposing it, or no, actually the use of Excel in estimating this. This is what I'm planning to explain. So the z-test formula is actually z is equal to x bar minus mu divided by standard deviation divided by a root of n. And we know that the z value is actually 1.96. And this n, if we plan to derive, if you derive for n, this formula can actually be rewritten as 3.92 into standard deviation square by divided by 0.025 into mean the whole square. 0.025, we are actually testing it at 95 percentage confidence level as a two tail, so that 0.025 will be taken here, and this is actually 3.92. How we are getting is actually 1 point, because of the z value into 2, that we'll be getting that. So this is how, because we are not concerned regarding how the derivation is actually coming and all, but take down this formula in your mind. Okay, so once you are done with this, you try to take down this in a piece of paper with you, so that what we are planning to do next is, we are slowly moving towards an Excel sheet. So normally, I'm just inviting your attention towards a normal Excel sheet. So this Excel sheet, if you try to see what is marked in red color, I will just enlarge it so that no, the visibility will be fine for no, every one of you. So see here, you can see S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 up to S10 that you are able to see. You may be asking me what exactly is this S1 to S10. This is actually represents different statements. Majority of you, I'm sure that if you are doing social sciences research, you might have incorporated any of the Likert structure of instrument in your questionnaire for sure. So this particular structure, I'm trying to use it as a base for the estimation of sample size. So say for example, for the time being, we can consider that you have altogether 10 statements which are asked actually in a 5-point scale. So you all may be knowing what exactly is a 5-point scale and what a Likert scale is all about, and all the intricacies associated with that also. You may be well versed it. I'm not wasting my time explaining about all such things. Okay. So normally, some of you might have entered your data into an MS Excel sheet, or sometimes you might have exposed or imported the same thing into an SPSS sheet. So I'll be showing both to you, how to do it in Excel and how to do it in SPSS also. I'll be telling you. So this is the base structure, and normally in MS Excel, the first thing will be the number of all your statements. So probably for the easiness in understanding and reading, I have just now named it as statement 1 to 10. And while estimating the sample size, you are not worried regarding the qualitative aspects of it, but rather numbers actually speaks here. So that is why I have not explained what is S1, what is S2 and all. You imagine that no, it is all representing different statements. And now, normally in an Excel sheet, you may be entering the data. So 2 actually represent the first respondent, and how he had actually responded for all the 10 statements is how it is being explained here. So if you actually try to like scroll down, if you actually try to scroll down into the data, you will be actually able to see different numbers being written, like 1 to different statements actually will be listed here. So you just see the entries how it is made. So if you click down, you can see the whole set of entries. So if you just drag down, there are empty number of entries, because the how many data got entered here is actually around so 360 data is there, the 361 that you will be able to see here. But what we can do here is one will be getting deducted from it, since the first row that we have used for naming the variable. Okay. So this is the thing with, so you consider that this is a part of a pilot study of a huge project. Okay, imagine like that. So normally we will not be taking this much of data for a normal pilot study. Sometimes it may be 50 or it may be 100 for that matter. For explaining this, no, I have taken around 360 data with me to explain you how exactly to calculate the sample size. Okay. So fine. So you have it. So you just drag down, and what you have to do exactly is you just go, and at the end of the Excel sheet, just immediately after the last entry is done, you just write mean, then you type standard deviation, and you just type on sample estimation. So these are the three things what you are actually supposed to do. So you have to write about mean, you have to write about standard deviation, and sample size is what we are going to estimate. So why we are doing all these things is, if I am actually requesting your attention back to the screen, the n is actually derived, and where you have blank standard deviation and you have a blank mean. Okay, this is what we are planning to calculate now. So all these things, how we are planning to calculate is based on the pilot data what you have. Okay. So you may be asking me, in the formula you have only seen one, but we have 10 statements here. What exactly that we are planning to go with it? So time being, you just follow me what I am exactly planning like. So here in the means column, that if you go to the formulas, because you all may be knowing that how to insert formula to an Excel sheet. So you will be able to see the syntax, or rather the formula to be used for averages. So if you click on average, that you will be able to see B2. B1 is actually the name of the statement. So by default, the software, the Excel sheet will be calculating the average from B2 to B361. 361 is the last entry. You keep an enter to it so that the average of the same thing will be calculated. Now you will be able to just now drag it for the whole set of 10 statements. So you have all the averages in your hand. You're all done with it. Okay. So it is so easy. And if you try to click on the next one, here also that you just go, and normally you have to click for more functions. So more functions, normally standard deviation most recently, if you are using it, it will come. Or else no, here you just the search window, you just try to type stdev, so that automatically that will come. So here you have to actually insert the standard deviation function. But here, mind you, you have to see for the cells actually, this has been marked as 362, but we only want up to 361. So you click here and change it to 361, so that it will be taking only the numbers, only the number of counts, exactly that we want. Again, as a normal thing, you just try to put an press an enter. In the same way that you can just drag it, so that we will be available with the standard deviation. Okay. So what I did here is, we are only in a pilot stage, so that variables might not have taken the birth. You sometimes might be going for an like factor analysis, either exploratory or confirmatory, or you may be going for a cluster analysis, or you may not be having a clear cut idea regarding what all variables that you are planning to exactly use for the study. So this is a very primitive stage where you have less information on the variables, and if you have clear cut information on the variables, exactly what you are planning to use, then you are always welcome to use that also instead of the statements. But using this will be very good, since the primitive, the initial stage variation also could be accounted in this. This is the advantage of it when you try to compare it with the calculated variables. So it is always better if you have 100 statements, you take it for the entire 100, because it will not take that much of time from you, because it is so easy, as a job. Okay. So in Excel, you can do it like this. And so for example, if you are doing it in SPSS, you all may be knowing that it will be having a data view and a variable view. Actually, the appearance what you see may be a little different in the system, because I am using a different OS. So you have a variable view, and you may have a data view. So if you just click on the variable view, you can see all the statements, right from statement 1 to statement 10. The same data is being copied here. So what to do here is, normally it is so easy a job. We'll be going to analyze, we'll be going to the descriptive statistics, and we'll be just clicking on the frequency. I'll repeat once again. This is the same sheet. If you click on the variable view, you can see all the variables here. If you click on the data sheet, the same data is being entered here. So you can see around 300 and, just a second, yeah, 360 entries made here. Okay, so the same thing. You go to the analyze function, come to back to the descriptive, go to the frequencies, and you try to drag all the statements, all the 10 statements, drag it to the right hand side box, click on the statistics. What all things that we want? We actually in need of mean and the standard deviation. Okay, so both the things that we have actually selected for, and we will be just going, we just don't want anything else. So we'll be just going for continue. We don't want the display frequency tables also. We just want the entire details only. See, here the mean and standard deviation had come. So you can, if you want, you can copy all these things from here. If you double click, it will be activated. You'll be able to copy it like this, and you can paste it in an Excel sheet if you are trying to enter the data directly into the SPSS. Okay. So we will again go back to the MS Excel sheet what you have. So all the things are actually done. Okay. So now what we are planning to do here is we have to input the derivation for n in this column. Okay, so we'll be just going and seeing what exactly it is. It is 3.92 into standard deviation the square. This is what we want to enter in the first in the first column. So what we are planning to do is we can click on an equal to, then you open a bracket. So click on 3 point uh, uh, just a second, 3.92 we have got into standard deviation is what actually. So you have to actually come here. So the first thing that we'll be able to give, so we can actually click on standard deviation. It is marked here as uh, the standard deviation of the entire set of the variables. It is marked, as the last column. So you have the standard deviation here. So what you can do is you can click on the standard deviation, and you can click on the square of it, and you close the bracket. Okay, so this we got, and you have to actually, the next part is divided by 0.025, 0.025 that you got. So here you need to open a bracket initially, 0.025 into, you need to actually calculate for the mean. So into that you click, into mean that you click, then you close the bracket, then you put a whole square. Okay, so this is the formula what we have incorporated. We have actually taken into account the mean of the first set, the statement number 1. We have accounted the standard deviation also for the statement number 1, and we have seen how the formula to be actually entered. So B363 actually stands for the standard deviation of statement number 1, and B362 is actually the mean for statement number 1. So we have inputted the formula, and what we have to do is that you click on and enter. Okay, see, the estimated sample size had already come, and now what you have to actually do for us, you can actually drag this and keep it as the last one. And now you have different sample sizes estimated for different statements. Now the big question comes, which one I'll take? Okay, so we all will be interested actually to take the smallest one in this, because you all may be knowing that how tedious the data collection is actually. So we are actually running behind the numbers as if a sales company is giving you targets. But whatever, that is not the right way to do. What you have to account here is actually you have to go for the largest sample size here. Why also I'll tell you why you are having different sample size here. Okay, see, this can be self-explanatory also. Say for the first one, for a mean of 3.32, you have a deviation of 0.92. Okay, nearly 1. So you have 455 as a sample size. Take the second one. Here standard deviation is relatively low, so the sample size is again coming down. Here you see you have a sample size little more increased, and we'll just see for the last one, the lowest sample size here is actually 389, which will actually 3.47. So when we compare the standard deviation with respect to that of the mean, if the deviation is actually found to be less, you only need to take a lower sample size. So when deviation will be more, if the respondents whom you are approaching do have a difference in opinion, if they have a very drastic opinion, and when the deviation is actually relatively high when compared to that of a mean, you have to account for more sample size to accommodate those deviation errors. This is the concept of it. So precisely speaking, the largest one in this is actually 621. Yeah, precisely. So the standard deviation is almost 1. And see, you can actually play also on along this. You try to change the standard deviations also, so that you'll be able to see how the sample size estimation is actually changing. So imagine I have only taken 360 samples in this as a pilot study. So what is estimated is actually all these figures. Okay. So and there are certain papers and all where I have seen people are actually trying to take the average of it. But if you ask me, I'll tell that it is a wrong method. You should not average it, but again, the error effects will get nullified. So that effort you should not do. What you have to go for is you have to take the highest standard deviation itself. And sometimes you may see very huge sample size, maybe 1000, 1500, 2000, all these things that you'll be able to see. So what can be done on that? So what is advised on that is, again, what you can do is you collect some more sample size as part of your pilot study. Then you try to see whether the deviation is getting reduced. Okay, and purposefully or compulsory, don't adjust on the standard deviation. You have to be very truthful to what you are doing, trustworthy also to you yourself. So changing or manipulating the standard deviations, or rather the means, are not advisable, but you can collect little more. Sometimes this deviation will get subside. Sometimes problems can happen with typo errors also, because when you type all these numbers 543 543, all these things, all possibilities are there that you can keep a wrong entry instead of 5. If you have written 10, then it can create actually huge issues. I'll tell you what exactly, because this 5 I'm just changing it to 10. See, the sample size had jumped. It had jumped to 692. Okay, so these type of things can also happen. So you have to cross check for the accuracy of the data, and you have to actually check whether all the things are entered in a proper manner or not. Okay, this is the way what I did about the statements. And now, if you don't want to take statements, but rather you have to estimate your sample size based on the variables, in that case also you compute the variables. So for example, if the first variable is a product of all the 10 statements, you add the product itself and don't divide it by 10. Never ever divide it by 10. You take the productive column itself, you add the sum of it, and the same manner you try to find out the mean, try to find out the standard deviation, and try to use this formula for the estimation of sample size. And why I have told you this can also be used for finite samples is also, finite sample we cannot predict that there will not be any deviation, because after all, human beings are responded to your survey. So you can actually expect all sort of deviation or errors with respect to the data what you are trying to collect. So the deviations or errors in data collection is always possible, or the extreme deviations are also possible. So you have to set the sample size in such a way that the sample size should actually address the deviation in your study. So if you try to defend this argument, the sample size what you have selected based on this argument, nobody actually could counter question you. But rather, if you take other methods and all, they can obviously ask, have you checked for the errors or the deviation in the data? So if the deviation is more, will it be good for you to take a finite method of sample selection, that they'll be able to ask. So this is the easiest method for you, step by step, that I have just explained it to you. So one more time, I'll tell you: keep a Excel sheet, then try to calculate the mean and standard deviation, and the formula what I have told you, what I have just exposed to you also. This formula that you can use it. It is derived from the ESET test. So you can use this formula, and you'll be able to calculate the sample size very easy. It may hardly take 10 minutes for you, I'm sure. So immediately after the very night when you finish the pilot study, and if you enter the data to the SPSS or Excel sheet, you will be able to do that. And part number 2 from my study, from today's class, is actually on what you will be able to do when your sample size is finite. So for explaining this, I'm just inviting you towards some websites where The first one and most precise one, not precise actually. Here you can actually try the differences also between margin of errors and confidence interval. All these things what you have already fixed, and multiple columns are there also there in this. And this is actually a site by name Rawsoft, where you can just enter the population size here. Say for example, if you have a finite population of 5,000, okay, rest you need not adjust on anything, okay. So for a population size of 5,000, by keeping a margin of error as 5% and by keeping a confidence level as 95%, the estimated sample size would be 357. And what will happen if you change your margin of error? If you change it to 9.70, all these things are there. What changes that you can have in your sample size is also alternative scenario. This is called with a confidence level of 90, 95, 99. So you can actually adjust it based on the number of sample size that you can actually choose from. All the formula, everything is actually written. You can simultaneously go to SurveyMonkey, which is one of the major online data collection tool. Here also you'll get the same answer, 5,000 that you can keep, 95% of the confidence this thing, and 5% is your margin of error. The same thing you will keep. 357 is the average. There is one more site called Creative Research System. The same thing that you can have. Population is again 5,000 that I am just trying to type 357, the sample you will get. Okay. So never ever try to fix your sample size based on your convenience. Why? I'll tell you. If your sample size is finite, and if you try to calculate in a sample calculator like this, you might have got 357 as your sample. The same thing that you can actually check for, if you try to check the deviations, and if you find that the sample size estimated from the deviation is larger than what you have calculated in the finite test, if it is more, I would advise you to take the sample size what you have calculated by this means, because this is going to address your deviations also. So it is always advisable that no, you'll be able to go as per this method also, which will actually clear all your doubts, and which is actually more error proof in actually doing this. So say for example, if you have 10 variables as such, if you have, instead of statements you can use the variables also. But my advice to you will always be to stick on to the same thing, the statements itself, for better explanation of all the things. So the small topic, I think the time is already up. I think what all things that I try to put it across you is being made in a very simpler format, and it is easy for you to follow through also. So if you have any further uh, queries with respect to this, you can actually contact me in this. I'm just giving you my mail ID if you have any further clarification on this, or you can actually put across your doubts, or if you have any queries in this, to the organizers of this FDP, so that they in turn will be mailing it to me. I'll share my number also. These are my contact details. Anytime that you can call, or you can post the comments to the organizer of this conference. So they in turn will be giving it back to me. So I'll be available either on mail or on my phone. So trust this piece of information was valuable for you, and without any fear that now you can all go across in estimating the sample size. And for students also, that you can do the same thing when going for a student's project or something like that, because sample estimation, everyone may be telling 100 is a universal size. It is not actually. 100 maybe for the students convenience and all, that no, we may be telling that 100 is a magical number. and no thumb rules actually will hold here, mind you. For estimation of the sample size, data centric method is the best one that you can go for, and calculating this is also so easy as what I have told you. So with this, I'm trying to wind off, and it is so happy to interact you all on an online platform. I don't know whether to call it as an interaction, since it has been aired as an recorded webinar. So that is why I had given my mail ID and telephone number. So whatever, the only message to give at the end of the session is keep safe inside your home, and trust we all will fight against COVID-19. And thank you all. Thank you.